guys. Welcome back to another exciting episode on the show, Control or Be Controlled, a podcast designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. And I remain your host, Darlington. Today's guest is Richard Seeram. Richard is a Bronx-born, Brooklyn-based conscious rapper whose music represents more than entertainment. It represents healing, honesty, and transformation. After overcoming his own mental health struggles, Richard turned his experiences into a platform that bridges the gap between music and mental health. Known for his cinematic production, thought-provoking lyrics, and powerful storytelling, his work explores vulnerability, resilience, identity, and the realities many people face but rarely talk about. His artistry has been recognized by outlets including XSL Magazine, This is 50.com, Soul Science Radio, and American Pride magazine, earning him comparison to artists like Mos Def, Talib Kweli, and Common. Today, we're talking about creativity, mental health, overcoming personal battles, and using your voice to inspire others. Rich, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you for the opportunity to share my story with your audience.
Okay, so I have some questions here for you, and I would like us to get into them.
Sure.
So, Rich, your music carries a lot of depth and emotion. Who were some of the artists who inspired you and shaped the way you approach storytelling through hip hop?
Yes, for me, I got really inspired by just honestly this the arts in general. Like in high school, I was just inspired by just being able to journal my ideas and my thoughts and my emotions, and so that really kind of inspired me to actually get into spoken word. There wasn't really an artist particularly that I was kind of inspired by until like later on. That I kind of delved into music like from NF. He's also a mental health conscious rapper as well. I got inspired by his music. Then later on Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole. Those are the artists I still look up to this day. And they really, really inspire me to think of myself as a conscious rapper because I personally was rapping about a lot of different braggadocious things before my rebrand. And so being able to shift that perspective of my music really helped challenge me to talk about the things that really are important to me to talk about in this world, like my mental health.
All right, thank you so much, Rich. So, your journey includes overcoming mental health struggles and transforming that experience into art. When did you realize music could become a tool for healing?
Yeah, I figured my music would be a tool for my healing was when I think it was right before the pandemic. There was times where I struggle with suicide ideation. And so like once I started to put my feelings on paper and started to really voice what I was going through, I just kind of felt like this whole weight lifted on my shoulder kind of when I first stepped into doing music when I was teen. I just kind of felt like it was an escape for me. I didn't really know it back then. I was just kind of like voicing what I was feeling, but I think it took almost going through like suicide to really gauge how important this music was for me, to be to write myself away out from that darkness, so to speak, and into the light. I personally had a lot of struggles with my mental health, and when I put it myself in a position where I was actually writing about it, I learned that by writing about it, it really helped me to look at my life in a different perspective and also gave me a way to kind of rewrite a different narrative for myself. And when I did that, I allowed myself to fully delve deeper into my music, and it also was cathartic for me because I was able to find solace in knowing that I have the music to kind of like guide me through it and also inspire myself to keep going.
Okay, thank you so much. What you are doing is very, very great because I understand the role music play. A lot of things that are very difficult for us to remember. But as long as when we hear a particular song on and on, we tend to be able to remember the lyrics. So what you are building is great, Richard. So
Thank you.
mental health is a major theme in your work. What inspired you to openly address topics that many people still struggle to talk about?
Yes, actually, that's a great question, and actually, that was really the reason why, um, you know, this is the reason why I actually got into mental health music is because that it was a issue or actually a trauma, right? A traumatic event that happened in my life during the pandemic, which I talked about, in previous other interviews about how I was working with a mentor on my music career for 4 years. And then during the pandemic, unfortunately, there was mental abuse that was involved with her and I. And so she projected that mental abuse onto me. And I had a lot of suicide ideation around the mental abuse. And so I didn't really know what it was. I didn't even know what mental abuse was until really my friend who was in the same music class taught me a lot about what the mental abuse, about a lot about mental abuse in general, about narcissistic abuse, and it was from a movie, Your Reality. That was a film that they had on YouTube, and it really changed my life. And it taught me to see what she was doing behind the scenes was not indicative of a person who is helping me to heal from sadness. And so I had to distance my way from her and pick up the pieces, so to speak, and rebuild. And I rebuild, I think, even stronger because now my music has more um it's more potent now. It's more honest. And it's more vulnerable. I talk about a lot about my struggles and overcoming that mental abuse, and also empowering other people that if they're in the same situation that they also can get out of it. I've been really adamant about sharing these things because I know for me I needed to hear it from somebody else to help me think about it and take it seriously. Because before it was kind of like taboo at the time. Like I didn't think mental health was I was afraid because the people weren't talking about it, and if anybody was talking about it, it was shunned upon. And so I thought the same thing years back. I thought like, okay, maybe someone's gonna shun me for talking about mental health, and I was always on the fence, honestly, because I didn't want to be that person like in the music industry. It's like that's so like left center with my music of like I'm talking about mental health and everybody else is talking about cars, women, and XYZ. So there was a fear there for me to not be able to to be able to share my mental health story without feeling like, I'm being ostracized by the music industry. And so I decided to run with the mental health angle because I knew that was the most honest music I was making at the time and still am because it's really coming from my true experiences of what I've went through, especially during the pandemic. And so I think it's important for me to continue to rap about this because it sheds awareness that other people, first myself, I'm not alone, and other people, and my hope is that other people won't feel alone also in their journeys of mental health.
Okay, so looking back at your earlier music compared to your work today, how has your personal growth changed the way you create?
Yeah, I think I have more perspective now. Earlier during the years, I was pretty much talking about what other people were talking about in their music. It was more like what I had, how good I looked, and all of that superficial stuff. I kind of, it didn't really have a lot of substance. Of course, some songs I wrote did have substance, but there's also times when a lot of my songs didn't have as much substance, and now I look back at it and I know I have like a lot of lived experiences that I've I've garnered through the past years, and so my music shifted because I just grew as an individual and as an artist. Some of my music, changed because, obviously because of the mental abuse, and then I also was going through stuff like heartbreak and this and that and this all these other things and issues with my own self worth. And my music really gave me, it gave me, in a sense, that the new music gave me permission to actually step into what's really happening with me, and also shed a layer of the fake persona that I had before. Because from prior years I had a different alias. I was Rich So Fresh, and that was my rap name several years ago, and that was like the persona of like, okay, I'm this big braggadocious rapper XYZ, and now shift to Rich Vision, which is a new rebrand. I was able to kind of like shift, kind of, and also with the help of my mentor at the time, of what was really, you know, really potent for me, which was like, okay, kind of like being the more vulnerable, sensitive rapper, versus the more braggadocious rapper. So my lyrics did change because my life changed dramatically, and the stuff that I was going through changed as well. So I felt like my music was always changing within within the years, because everything in my life shifted. Especially during the pandemic, I was going through a lot, and so a lot of my songs were darker, and and also songs were more empowering, because I wanted to write more stories about how I can get over that mental abuse and those mental hurdles. So a lot of it shifted because my life shifted in general.
Okay, so the music industry can sometimes create pressure around image, success, and comparison. How have you protected your mental health while pursuing your career?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I will be honest and say I still struggle with that to this day. Right, I'm not gonna sit here and be on a podcast and say I'm not, you know, in a sense, besides, I mean, lack of better words, like victimized by that, or just, succumb to that pressure of like trying to fit in, because I do look at social media and sometimes I have to take it off because I'm like, I compare myself to other people. And so that's one thing that I do to protect my own mental health, is I try not to digest, all the social media. I really don't. I limit myself from the social media, because I know, like, if I see someone who's a little bit more further ahead than me, I do have the tendency to compare myself. And I know that it's not the healthiest, and so that's the reason why I do have boundaries in place and barriers, because I know the way I am. And so, like, that's what's been really helping me to limit those things, and also to kind of um think of myself as like, okay, just kind of congratulate myself for my wins, and that's kind of how I protect myself. It's like, okay, even though this person might be in a different level as me, XYZ, but I know that I have, my accolades, and I have things that I've accomplished in my career. So, a lot of times it's like giving myself grace, and putting myself in a different mind frame, by reframing some of my thoughts, and also giving myself a little bit more pats on the back, if you will, versus criticizing myself. And that's kind of really how I'm able to kind of protect my mental health. I try to do myself due diligence with the limitations, though.
Okay, so what practices, habits, or resources have helped you maintain your own mental health and continue creating?
Yeah, I think what habits was really been helpful is I've been able to I write a lot. And I write a lot of music, and these thoughts that I have in my head, and just putting it on paper has been really helpful for me. Um, Obviously, the gym is also a big thing for me. I go like 4 times a week, so that's kind of been really helpful when it comes to just my mental health in general. I do meditate, try to do that at least daily, and I try to also listen to uplifting music as well to help shape my mindset, and those things really help me to better my mental health. I also, at the time, I was doing a lot of affirmations and rewriting them and reframing those affirmations, and it was really helpful for me at the time because I was actually in a space where I didn't really know how to encourage myself, and so like I would buy all these posters and all these motivational teas I had to kind of like uplift me from like a dark, really, really dark space. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. It's been writing, and also, with the writing, it helped too because it also helped me, write my book at the same time and really shed what I was going through at the time. Because my book was also a big inspiration, for me to kind of like keep going as well because I know like if someone may read the book, they might find some like a gem of something that I went through that they can get an offer of like some kind of support throughout my story, and so that was also a big thing for me. Also,
All right, thank you so much, Richard. Thank you for sharing your story and showing how music can become a bridge between healing and connection. The journey is a reminder that vulnerability is not weakness. It can be the foundation for creativity, growth, and helping others feel less alone. For those that would like to learn more about your music and Rich Vision, how can they connect with you and learn more about you? Right. Thank you so much once again. And thank you to all my audience. You guys are the reason why we are always here doing this. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that their story and struggles can become a source of strength. Once again, Rich, thank you for coming to my show.